Hello, and welcome to today's Mindset Podcast. I have the privilege and honor of having Shelly Cofini here. She's the Chief Business Development Operator of BidMyListing, which is a new strategic partner that we've brought on here at Set Schedule, as well as the Hey You of the Cofini Group. Shelly, welcome, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I know we mentioned it off camera, but I wanted to mention it again. You recently actually, you're very big on health, and it's a conversation that you and I had just touched up in the beginning because you mentioned that, so I was drinking at that time. I was not feeling very well, and I was drinking my newly added, I guess, replacement of my coffee is my new ginger, lemon, and honey hot water mix, and you had me recommended I add turmeric to it as well, and it made such a difference. So again, thank you for that. But I was just a curiosity, what, and again, this is really, Shelly, you're my second time that we're getting to connect, and we'll spend a lot of time talking about BidMyListing because, again, I think that primarily a lot of our listeners here on the Mindset Podcast, a lot of them are going to be real estate professionals, specifically real estate agents, and we want to obviously educate everybody about BidMyListing. It's an awesome platform, but what is Shelly? Who is Shelly, and kind of how did you get involved in the real estate industry?
So I grew up on a horse ranch, ironically, in the
Okay,
Midwest,
okay.
and my father trained racehorses, and neither my father or my mother graduated from high school, right? So they really grew up in this kind of country environment. And my mom decided to get her real estate license many, many years ago, and she instantly, literally overnight, became one of the top agents at Century 21, selling horse ranches, ironically. And I always said, "Oh, I'm never going to get into real estate. I will go down the lending path." So I started out as a mortgage banker and had early success. And as the market started to shift and move, I had some ideas around real estate, specifically at the last downturn around 2008. And so I started to test some of those ideas, and I landed myself in the real estate business. So I would say that I'm here by accident on purpose.
Accidental, purposeful decision. Because you studied psychology, you have your master's in psychology. So, do you give full credit to your mom on being in the real estate industry then, or is it something that kind of inspired you to really decide that this is an industry and a path you want to take?
So clearly, having been around her and watched her early on was inspiring. I mean, she was doing very large deals at a time when those deals were not prevalent. Um, I was more fascinated by the finance side and how to structure
Hmm.
deals, and so which is what led me to mortgage banking. Um, but I also started to, as I grew in the industry, I opened my own mortgage company. I ran a very successful boutique brokerage here in Newport Beach for 15 years. And I started to get requests from clients that said, "Hey, what you're doing for me holistically as a wealth strategy, can you do that for my business?" And that was
Mm.
where the light bulb went off and went, "Oh, yeah, I could totally do that." Right. It's the same methodology for me, right? Which is I focus on ontological coaching, which is really
Okay.
zeroed around who you're being, not necessarily what you're doing, right? And so getting people to be grounded, aware of what their natural instincts are and their unique abilities, and having them focus on doing the things that they do best and delegating. I mean, these are all to me kind of really basic tenets of building a business or a practice. And so when the mortgage industry started to shift, I actually ended up going into consulting full time. And so I had
Okay.
mortgage companies, real estate companies, I had a clothing designer, um, lots of different kinds of businesses, a lot of it really technology focused on, innovation and efficiencies and costing models and those kinds of things. And so I've had that practice, the Cofini Group, since 1995. It has now really morphed into early stage technology companies, innovations around things like blockchain, AI, AR, um, And so I'm fascinated by Web3 and the metaverse. And so you'll catch me talking about those sectors every once in a while as well.
So I'm not very versed with the metaverse. So versed with the metaverse. So those who maybe aren't as familiar, I mean, I know there's a lot of hype around it, and I have conceptually somewhat of an idea of what the metaverse is. How do you feel that the metaverse is going to evolve, let's say, in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, and how is that going to affect the real estate industry?
So, I mean, it's already here, right? We're seeing real estate being sold in the metaverse. We're seeing advertising around that real estate being sold in the metaverse. Clearly, we still have lots of things going on in real estate in the real world, but digital currency is coming into play. That's one of the projects that I've been working with. We have, just innovations around. So if you think about escrow and title and real estate and how blockchain can drive innovation in that
Mm-hmm.
space, and so it's not as far off as everybody thinks, right? And these projects are actually happening as we speak, right? Which are, again, creating, faster transactions. I firmly believe at some point the mortgage industry won't need 45 days to close a transaction, that they might be
That would
able
be
to do
exciting.
that at a collapsed time frame. And the same with escrow and title and the way the information is tracked and managed. All of that is coming into play as we speak.
That's awesome. I know my mother is very big on all that, and she spends a lot of her time researching, and she's been in the stocks for a while and keeps telling me I need to invest, and it's not something I've really gotten into. So, I mean, Shelly, do you feel that this is something real estate agents should start to pick up and start to maybe get involved in as part of their marketing plans?
And the reason why I say that, and this kind of plays into obviously BidMyListing and my role and my interest there, right? This is about finding new customers. And so in a market where, we're having compression, which across the country, we're seeing that in the real estate market, right? With the recent increase in interest rates. Real estate agents that are adept at having those conversations around using digital currency or accessing folks that want to use that tool as a means of buying real estate is going to open them up to new customers. And so, based on my research, that is happening across the country. It's happening in retail as well, right? You've got people that are out there actually transacting with a wallet.
Interesting. Interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how, because the real estate industry is a little bit of a snail when it comes to new technology and innovation, and we might be 20 years away from paper and pen, or 40, 50, 60, whatever year amount of paper and pen, and everything is done through computers nowadays. But yet when I have to sign my escrow documents, I have to be in pen and paper still. So is there any new technologies, as I guess as a tech enthusiast, which I know you are, is there any new technology that you're excited about outside of BidMyListing? Because I want to get to there next. Before we get there, that you think in the course of the next 5 years will kind of change the way the real estate industry plays, when it comes to, because you did mention the 45 days escrow and that going away. Do you think that there's anything in the horizon that we should be excited about?
Sure, I think getting blockchain. So we'll blanket it under Web3, right? Which is just
Web 2.0.
innovations around
Yeah.
Web3.
Yep.
I think you're going to see time collapsing across all fronts as technology starts to insert itself in those different sectors. So whether it be title or escrow or lending, real estate in and of itself, utilizing digital currency, those are all things that are really about collapsing time, right? And in today's world, time is money, right? And so I think that we're going to be shocked at how quickly some of those innovations surface. I mean, there's already now a platform out there that rolled out about a year and a half ago that is using NFTs to transfer the ownership of real estate. That platform is called Proppy. Very interesting innovation.
Interesting.
Yeah. So and working on innovation in title alongside that. So agents absolutely should be exploring that and learning about it, because it's not going away.
There's always that fear of something new, and the fear of the unknown, right? And it's so much more prevalent when it's something new, and it's something nobody's really explored to the point where anyone's comfortable with it. But I'm looking forward to seeing how the real estate industry pivots around all of these blockchains and NFTs and all the coin currencies that are coming out there. I think it's a good way to test the real estate industry and see if there is room for us to kind of evolve outside of the standard practices that we currently have in play. Let's get into BidMyListing a little bit now. This is a platform that I think came across my desk about a month ago, and you and I spoke a little bit after that. And we've tested our set schedule platform. I know you're on there and you're putting it out there. And there's been so many questions about BidMyListing. What is it? How does it work? But before we get into that, I guess I want to phrase the question of how did BidMyListing come about? What was the problem that you might have faced that you said, you know what, we need a platform like BidMyListing to help real estate agents kind of, be able to resolve this problem that they're all facing?
So our founder, Matt Proman, actually listed his home for sale in New York and had one of those experiences where he felt like the agent just didn't do everything the agent should have done to sell his property. And former Wall Street guy, right? Said, why can't we treat the listing like an asset class, right? Why can't the seller really treat their listing opportunity as something of value? And so
the listing itself, you mean?
Right. And so he set about to learn about how one could do that. And in the course of that, connected with Josh Altman, who is also a stakeholder in BidMyListing. And they work to perfect the idea of this notion of bidding on the exclusive right to list and creating really a competitive environment where sellers now receive something of value for listing their home, which means that agents have an investment in that process as well. And so that was the genesis of the idea. I was actually introduced to the opportunity through Josh Altman because of my technology background and my auction knowledge as well. And so we have an amazing team of both developers and strategists working on now how do we deliver this to the marketplace. So just to give you a sense of where we are, we launched a beta May 2nd of this year. We have a little over 10,000 agents on the platform and 2,500 sellers in various stages of getting ready to sell their home, right? And essentially, in its simplest form, what we've done for the seller is we've digitized the kitchen table. So a seller no longer has to go out and meet with 10 real estate agents and hear their pitch, right? Those agents are compiled in a dashboard where they can see their history, their experience. They can attach a video or a marketing plan, right? What they want their commission structure to be, what they want the listing duration to be, and then whether or not there's an incentive for that seller. And at the end of that marketplace, we line those up for the seller then to select the agent that works best for them. Once that agent has been selected, the agent does a walkthrough, right? And if everything is as agreed and there's chemistry, right? Because there needs to be a chemistry between seller and agent. We're not removing that process.
Right.
Then the agent walks away with, right. And so then the agent walks away with a signed listing agreement. And so from the agent's perspective, I can go out and buy leads and nurture them, right, over time in hope that I can convert, or I can log on to BidMyListing and select the listings that I want to buy, right, in hopes of being the winning bidder. And from that, in 7 days, I walk away with a signed listing agreement. So for the real estate agents, it might be a smarter way to spend their marketing dollars, right? Or at least a known outcome, right? That if they're the chosen bid.
Right, it's more predictable. And what I really appreciate about the business model is it allows real estate agents and the home shoppers to have a far more level of collaboration than what most home shoppers feel is my agent has to dictate the entire process for selling my property, right? They know best, and yes, they obviously know best, but most home shoppers don't realize that they should have a say in the marketing, or they should have a say in, or they can have a say in commission, right? It's not as black as white as 3% or 6%, generic standard commission rate. And I love that because BidMyListing opens up the conversation between the seller and the real estate agent, so it's a far more collaborative relationship and partnership than just hey, let me talk to 10 agents, and the one that says they'll sell my property at the highest amount with the lowest, the highest amount in the smallest amount of time is the one that I'm going to side with. So I thought that was a really interesting proposition when it comes to the real estate agents. And again, that predictability, knowing that, and just to clarify, at what point does the agent actually pay on the bid that they made it through BidMyListing?
It's only upon a signed listing agreement. And we're testing other strategies around that. But today the strategy deployed is that once they've confirmed they've signed a listing agreement, whatever those upfront monies are transacted through our platform. So the agent's not paying the seller directly; they're paying through our marketplace. And we've seen some agents express ideas and thoughts around that, and we're responsive to that, right? Because that may vary from state to state. Overall, the agents that are out there conducting business, that have teams, they see this as a way of zeroing in on their marketplace and owning a market, right? Because they can log on and make those selections and deploy money across multiple listings. And so that's very exciting. For home sellers, the feedback that we're getting is that it really drives value to them because they're now getting a selection of agents that they may not have normally met, right? Competing for that right for the exclusive listing. And so it's opening up to a broader choice for them to explore. And at the same time, really just creating efficiency. In other words, it's 0 to 8 clicks to publish on our platform, and once it's in the marketplace, again at the end of the marketplace period, they're delivered those offers for them to consider. And so for a busy executive or an investor, right, it's a way now to monetize the process and monetize their time, if you will.
So interesting that so. Do you feel that, and I wanted to get to the home shopper in a minute, but do you feel that you have team leads who can take advantage of this? I mean, it seems like if I'm a team leader and I've got, 7, 8 agents working under me, I would instinctually say, well, let me go in and let me bid myself, right? Let me start to build this, this database and this pipeline of listing opportunities. At the very least, my newer agents can actually get some practice in, right? And if it doesn't work out with them, which would be not the best situation, but if it doesn't work out, at the very least, if they're in an area I don't have another agent, they're getting some practice in. So do you see a lot of team leads coming to you for that?
Getting a ton of requests for teams for master bid accounts. We have lenders that are wanting to, because they can contribute marketing money to agents each month. They're wanting to find a way to participate. So yes, we're getting a lot of interest. And then of course, we're building out that relationship-based content for the seller as well, which is, here's how you learn more about choosing the right lender and choosing the right agent. This is what escrow is, and this is what title is. And so, we have a blog page up there really dedicated to educating folks about how to make smarter choices. So in essence, our ethos is that, right? We want to help folks make smart choices around real estate. And so that really applies to home sellers and to agents.
And that was going to be kind of my next question, was to what the experience, the user experience of a home shopper who would come to the platform is. And it sounds like you hold their hand for, if not all, the entire process, but not only the education, but you're there for them, from start to finish. Would that be fair?
Fair. We actually have a kind of a white glove team that is there to assist the homeowner to get onboarded on the platform and make sure that their profile is positioned properly and that the description includes all of the things that it should. and just to answer any questions. So, it's interesting because we're also getting different types of sellers. So we're seeing a lot of probate sellers come on the platform as a means of managing, right, a probate process. We're getting expireds on the platform. And so it's not just, like the seller from a local agent's farm, right? We're uncovering new opportunities for those agents as well.
How did I mean, what kind of brought this business model to light? Because I'm sure it's something that people have thought about. I mean, initially, actually, Set Schedule, our entire, I guess, our entire company was based off providing listing appointments, and there's a whole spiel where we would replace, and I mean, and it got to a point where it was a lot of work working with the agents, trying to get them out there, and they felt like it was a silver bullet. How do you kind of educate your agents who are on the platform to understand, they got to put it in the work, right? It's not a guaranteed opportunity. They show up, dress nicely, come prepared, have your listing presentation, and really be ready to, so do you think, do most agents actually walk out with a signed listing agreement, or, do you feel like some of the home shoppers still need a little bit of nurturing afterwards?
A little bit of that happening on the platform, and we're working through how to make that process better. In other words,
Awesome.
how to make the experience better. I mean, this is I say this is the genesis of the genius of Matt Proman, right? To take an idea where, and it's interesting, our chief strategy officer just shared this on a call. I thought it was brilliant. In a world where we're all kind of productized, right? We're all products in an ecosystem to marketers, right? For the very first time, we're taking, right, what would be considered a product, and we're turning it into an asset. And that asset now has value to the seller. And I think that piece right there, from the home seller's perspective, is something that they can absolutely leverage. Now, it actually plays into the same kind of leverage for an agent, which is, they have a new way to go out and capture business that's already been vetted, that's already been validated, right? All of the kind of the heavy lifting an agent typically does to procure a lead and then get that lead to the table, right? We've done all of that work, right? We know that this is a seller that's ready to sell, they're ready to find the right agent, right? We're really a matchmaking service, right? At the end of the day. So now it's about agents and how they communicate what they do and why they're the best in the world in their micro market, and what their experience is, and how they would communicate a marketing plan and a strategy for selling that home, right? And so we want both sides, right, to really benefit from this platform. And so now working to bring in content providers, like we're talking to some of the top coaches in the country, that will make the experience better for our agents as well, right? Which is here are tips and tools and strategies, technologies like Box Brownie, right? And List, these other tools that will make agents better at what they do, right? Bringing those together as part of how we support that agent population.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So speaking of markets, where are you seeing the most amount of production coming from? If I'm an agent, in which markets do I know I got to get on BidMyListing, create my account, and get going today?
Yeah, so we launched nationwide, and out of the gate, I think we were really surprised at the saturation that we received across the country, because we have not launched a national ad campaign yet, right? This has all been kind of organic, right, acquisition, marketing. And so naturally, where the markets were hot, we have a lot of concentration. So we've had a lot of concentration in Texas and in Arizona and Florida and Georgia, because those markets were on fire already, right?
Right now in the market, right. I mean, go ahead, my apologies.
That will continue to happen. We as a company are going to kind of become a little myopic. We're going to zero in on a couple of micro markets to really understand the relationships that we can build and how we can leverage those. So whether it be a local brokerage, right, or an affiliate that can drive engagement for us. And so we'll have a better sense, I think, after we've done a 90 or 120-day sprint in a micro market as to the impact. But that's a smart move for us.
I mean, especially in today's market where there's so much unknown, and the mortgage prices are going up and property prices are coming down, and we're starting to see a good trend of new buyers coming into the market, and it's always makes sense for us as well. Knowing specific markets that you can drive leads and invest market and get an ROI is it's a good business decision in general.
It's so funny when you think about it now. I don't want to date myself, but I've been in the business a while. Interest rates are still really, really good. I think that the public got so used to
the 3%, the 3.5%, 4% market that now that it's at 8%, it's freaking out.
Yeah, 5, 6, 7, 8% is still really competitive. And there was a time, right, in the 90s, and there was a time in the early 2000s where interest rates were higher than that dramatically, and still people were transacting. So from a real estate agent perspective, at the end of the day, if you look at just the average number of homes that sell a year, somewhere between 5 million and 6.5 million has been pretty consistent, right? We're going to see some compression, but I think by spring or by summer of next year, I think we're going to see some of that compression level out, and we're going to see activity again. And so I just encourage agents to make sure they got a game plan.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest, I think, factors that we have to overcome as I guess, platforms or companies that work with real estate agents. This perception that the real estate industry has gone to a halt and that nobody's buying and nobody's selling. It's just not true. If anything, that's when you need to actually double your amount of efforts and double your outbound marketing and make sure you get in front of 4 times the number of people that you have, because yes, sure, the market may have slowed down a little bit, but what happens when it picks up? If you're going to start again when the market picks up, you're now behind that person that's been spending the last 6 months to a year getting ahead of the market where they already have a full pipeline, and now you're competing with them. And again, I was going to say, what I like about your business platform is it's an efficient and effective way of spending your dollars. You're going to get something out of it by the time you said, okay, here's the cost for the marketing that I'm spending with you.
So at the onset what you're bidding, what your return on investment would be should you get that signed listing agreement, right? And the other thing that is organic to our platform is that about 40% of the sellers that come on our platform are also buyers in an upleg. So when an agent bids on an opportunity, we'll let them know seller intends to buy an area, which means if they do a good job on selling that property, then they should earn the right to get the buy side, right?
Yep.
And so, yes, this is about managing the return on your money that you spend, which is something that you can actually calculate on our platform. Think about it from the sense of marketing, right? Or buying or working expireds, right? You don't know what the actual calculation of that is over time, right? Because you may spend a year or 2 or 3 to actually pick up, right, 1 or more listings from, let's say, a local farm, right, or start to build that business practice. So your ROI becomes a little foggy. At least with BidMyListing, you're in control of the bid. You know what your outcome is going to be at the onset. And so to me, I think it's just a more efficient way and a more tactical way to drive business opportunities.
So what can users expect from BidMyListing? Again, I know that you mentioned that around May is when you guys kind of first launched, and it's still fairly new. But what can users kind of expect in the next, let's say, 6 months, 2 quarters coming up from BidMyListing? Because it sounds like you have a lot of a lot of new ideas coming up on the horizon.
So there definitely going to be more engagement on both sides of the fence, right? So how we engage and enroll sellers and how we engage and enroll agents. I think you're going to see maybe some additional benefits and features come on the platform, right? Things that we're mapping out now could at some point in the future have a subscription service or a premium feature tied to that. Things like, expanding your radius in a zip code, right? Giving you more exposure and more reach. Surprisingly, we've had a lot of agents want to register in multiple states because they're licensed in more than one state.
Right.
Right. So adding some of those new functions to the platform are all things that are part of our roadmap. I can tell you this, that we're getting more and more sellers every day, because I think sellers just see this, the efficiency and the reach that they're getting by publishing their listing opportunity on our platform. And so I don't see that slowing anytime soon. And I think as the market compresses further in some areas, that may actually be the motivator for sellers coming onto our platform.
Interesting. How do you see the market evolving in the next year or so? I know, again, interest rates are still going up. They went up, last Wednesday or Thursday? They hiked up another, half a point. And if I'm not mistaken, they plan on still increasing it a little bit. And how do you think that's going to affect the market for sellers who are, maybe ready to get into the market 6 months or a year from now? Do you think it's? I mean, not that you can predict it, but what is your prediction?
So, obviously, we spend a lot of time researching the market, right? Listening to the analyst, right? Listening to and reading all of the forecasts. At the end of the day, I still kind of go back to what I said earlier. In an average market, there's somewhere between 5 and 6.5 million homes sold. Maybe in this market, we see 4.7 million homes sold, right? There's still going to be activity in those areas where there's job growth, where there's population migration. So we've seen a race to warmer, better, kind of sunnier locations. We've seen a race to states that don't have state tax, or a more neutral political environment, right? All of those factors that you kind of look at in terms of number of homes being built, right? Those markets are still they're gonna be just fine, right? There's still gonna be activity, and we see some of those sleeper markets that we think, with industry coming in, like Phoenix, Arizona, there was a substantial kind of shift to new industry coming into that market, which means job growth, which means housing needs, which means housing sales.
Yep.
And so we're really focused on that. So I think it's going to be, it's definitely not going to be 2022 or 2021 in terms of volume or velocity, but it's not going to be horrific either. I think it's just like pumping the brakes on a car so we don't skid out. I think we're just going to kind of slow down and then pick back up again in terms of speed. And I think you'll see significant movement second and third quarter for sure.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually going to be in the market for a property myself soon, hopefully. So I'm curious and excited to see how the industry continues, other than the fact that being in the industry myself, right? But I'm excited to see how it works out, because the real estate industry, I myself never thought I'd be in the real estate industry. Had you told me, 7 years ago when I started with Set Schedule, that I'd be in any way, shape, or form, let alone in technology in the real estate industry, I would have told you that you were twisting my leg, as they say. But now that I'm in it, I think it's probably one of the most exciting industries you could be in, with all that's going on and all the growth that's happening. It's really a fun, exciting, and innovative industry to be in. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the next 6 months, and I'm looking forward to the next year. So I'm very optimistic on how the market is going to evolve.
I think the technology platforms in the space although some of them have definitely, had their tough year, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and posted some serious losses. And
Yep.
some of them are working it out. The reality is, look, you can't scroll through Instagram or TikTok, right, and not see some type of real estate conversation happening,
True.
True.
right? So you have
True.
an
True.
audience that has, grown up on those type of platforms that trust using digital experiences as a way of doing business. They're comfortable using digital platforms, right? And I just see that continuing to create more opportunity.
That's interesting. How much influencer marketing do you guys have as far as involvement in your business, if anything at all? I guess you would have said none, right? Because if you really haven't done a whole lot of marketing yet, from what you've told me.
But we have early on, right? We clearly have a celebrity influencer as a stakeholder,
With the Altman brothers. Right, right, right. That's true.
instrumental in driving agent engagement for sure. All of them, not just Josh, Matt and
Mm-hmm.
Heather are also involved. We've had a lot of press around that team,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
their thoughts and ideas and excitement for this platform. And we're excited to continue that collaboration. We're starting to map out now some educational content and some mastermind content where I think we can further leverage those relationships, because agents are hungry for information and ideas, right? And
Yep.
new
Yep,
technologies that they can use to leverage and grow
Yep.
their
yep,
business.
yep. That's awesome. Well, Shelly, thank you so much for joining me. Any final words you could leave our listeners off with, whether it's Bid My Listing or your own personal sign off? What final words can you give them?
Look, next year is going to be different, right? And so preparation is critical. If you haven't already started to map out your business plan, I would say I would take some time between now and New Year's to at least put together a 90-day game plan. And it has to be driven on how and when and where you get in contact with people, right? In my BidMyListing could clearly be one of those that I'm going to log on every Monday, right? And actually, technically, you don't have to, because we text you when you're on the platform when a new listing opportunity comes on, right? But being
Awesome.
able to
Awesome.
say, I've got this scheduled in my calendar, I'm going to pay attention when those texts come through because I know they're real deals, they're ready deals, they're
Hmm.
now deals, right? So that 90-day strategy is going to be first quarter, the difference of having a great second, third, and fourth quarter. And that's, I think, where a lot of agents, because it's a slow time, miss that critical opportunity of really setting the stage for people that are ready to sell in spring and summer, right? And getting those people lined up and on deck.
Awesome. Some really important words, I think, especially for not only just anybody in the real estate space, but if you're a business and entrepreneur, I mean, don't have your business plan for the next 6 months. I'm not sure what you're doing with your time. Anyways, thanks again for joining us. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you guys on the next Mindset. Bye for now.